And it should play the intro. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I'm really excited about my guest tonight. Tonight I have with me Rodney Lundrigan. He's my friend Coley's partner at SNX Radio. And Rodney's the Space Cowboy. He's going to join us for a powerful studio interview before I leave for Florida. For full disclosure now, Rodney is a lifelong UFO experiencer and the producer and host of the SNX Radio show and the founder of the S.T.A.R. Support for Those Abducted and Returned support group on Facebook. His journey began with a childhood UFO encounter with his father that includes a life of investigating craft sightings, cryptids, cattle mutilations, and mass abductions. And after a life-changing motorcycle accident in 2010,
Yeah, after a life-changing event in 2010, yeah, it was kind of hard for me to.
Rodney, after a life-changing motorcycle accident in 2010, Rodney dedicated himself to full-time UFO research, building one of the most supportive communities for abductees and experiencers nation, and while engaging top experts in the field with SNX Radio alongside Coley Weber. And with all that said, I'd like to give him a big warm welcome to the show for the first time. Rodney, thanks so much for coming on. How are you?
Oh, doing great, Rob. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah. So, take us through your story. Like, how did this all start for you?
Well, it was. I didn't really understand it at first. It all started in a small town of Florence, in the countryside. It's a real small community, and there's no neighbors really visible at that point. And we were just sitting around and having dinner, and my mother was gone. It was my father and my sister. And we heard a noise outside and didn't think nothing of it. He went to go investigate it. So there was a noise. So a lot of people say these things are silent. They're not always silent. In this case, it wasn't. So he went out to investigate. He comes back in. I was like, well, what is it? He said, well, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And then he described it. And of course, I didn't believe him. He said, well, I wish you were out there to see it with me. And a few moments went by, and we heard that noise again. And I went outside with him, and I wasn't prepared to see an Independence Day-sized craft that was enormous sitting over my house that had lights all over it. There was blue lights flashing coming down to the ground. And instantly, it went from my house to about 10 miles away. It came to an abrupt stop. Stayed there for a few moments, and then it went straight up and it was gone, never to be seen again. I never had an experience like that again. And it was very interesting. Reflecting on it, me and my dad were wondering why it all happened. I mean, we always wondered why. It seems like possibly, maybe the first time they were dropping off some beings and they were like watching us, and maybe how many times has this been going off? They seen we were onto them, and they came back and picked them up, possibly. I don't know.
Wow. Do you think they cloak themselves too, the beings? So like they obviously you want to see them, or do you think they can like become interdimensional and watch you without you knowing they're watching you?
Oh, 100%. I believe that. Yeah, there was, now reflecting back on it, like I said, I didn't have anybody to talk to about these experiences. There wasn't many people out in the country. My best friend moved to Florida at that time. And looking back on it, there were some things that were happening at my house that were unexplainable. I remember beings walking on my bed, it felt like they're sitting on my bed or walking across it. I wasn't sure, and that was a few nights. So yeah, and I couldn't see nothing there, and it was terrifying as a child. You know what I mean? And people just chalk it up as you're afraid of the dark. But for sure, yeah, they can definitely hide themselves in who knows what different ways.
Wow. And then were you taken after that? Would you say you had experiences where you were taken, or you?
I 100% believe that they've taken me multiple times throughout my childhood living out there. There was times when I had sleepwalking incidents. I tried to walk out the front door in the middle of the night. My parents caught me a few times. There's another time I tried digging into my parents' a flower in the house, and I grabbed a rock, just went back to bed. Frequent nosebleeds as a child that were unexplainable, and now my health now You know, a common thing I'm finding out is a lot of abductees have vitamin B12 deficiencies. They have immune deficiencies and some other health problems that, you know, the doctors didn't understand, and the mental health field had failed me. And, you know, they don't take this stuff serious. So I didn't have any of them to talk to. And it wasn't until 2020 where I was like, you know what? It's 2020. Everybody's inside. There's a lot of people on social media now. It's time I come out and talk about my story and what I experienced. And because so many other people are, maybe to help other people talk about theirs.
I agree. I agree 100%. You know, I think that's amazing that you're doing that as well. And like, let me ask you, like, have you see a lot of people still being abducted by what we would think of as the Greys, or like, where do you see most people's consciousness nowadays?
It does seem like the Greys are responsible, or they're working for somebody as well. How the lore goes, what we've trying to figure out. Yes, it's the majority of what the abductions are being by the Greys, but it's even possible. You know, there's what we know is the MyLab program too. I live between two military bases, a former Griffiths Air Force base and a Fort Drum Army base here in New York. And who's to say a lot of my experiences couldn't have been something that they had going on. You know?
Yeah, that's what we're finding out now. And usually a lot of people with alien, you know, contact are even followed up on by the MyLab program, it seems like, right?
Yeah, a lot of people won't even believe it's real. It's hard to believe and to fathom that our government, not only would they do that to us, they can't believe it because they don't think that we could have the technology to do it.
But I think it's been proven we do have the technology, right? It's we have I would say that with the government's what 50 times ahead right now or something like that, they say.
Yeah, I mean, they come out and said we have the ability to take ET home, and more recently they've said that we have the ability to manipulate time and space.
Wow, that's insane. You know, that it's actually insane that they're actually admitting to that kind of stuff. You know, and then someone told me earlier in my show that they actually got a green light to investigate Area 51 and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That they're going to let the UAP task force in there, but like. Something I thought about that is I thought, man, they're probably moved everything out of there. You know, what do you think?
Well, I'm sure if they're going to get permission now to let people go around there and see what's going on, they're going to have the real least sensitive material still there. They probably moved it. That's probably not even at Wright-Patterson. They could have moved it to Antarctica. Who knows? Maybe even Cheyenne Mountain is the most fortified base in America, I believe. Cheyenne Mountain.
What's up with Cheyenne Mountain? I don't know too much about that.
Well, that's where the Space Force Command is, I believe, is housed at. That's where their base of operations is. NORAD's in there. They got a lot going in there. There's even 3 lakes in there. There's a lake of fresh water. They got a lake of green, like wastewater, gray water, wastewater, and a lake of diesel fuel inside that.
That's insane. Yeah, that's. Why do you think they have those in there? Like.
Well, so that when the brown stuff hits the spinny thing, you know, when the shit hits the fan, they got reserves, and they'll be able to stay down there for as long as they can with the resources they have, I guess, you know.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yes, people have told me recently that they feel like the whole underground is connected, you know, like from each city to city, and that there are civilizations that live under there, you know, like alien and human, you know, coexisting like underground. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could possibly be coexisting alongside, you know, Bigfoot is just nothing but like a Wookiee. That's how I see him. The reptilians could be there in different places. Like, depends on the climate. I was talking with Shane Garrell, and he thinks that different species are more likely to visit in different climates and geographic areas more common, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, yeah. What do you think about the secret space program? Do you? Because I know you work alongside Coley. You guys interview a lot of SSP whistleblowers as well. Do you think you feel like it's going on for sure?
I'm convinced it's going on. Like I said, we were talking in the beginning. They're 50 years ahead of what they tell us that they are, and it does seem that way. With what was it? Gary McKinnon was the whistleblower that exposed that. It seems like he's just a hacker that exposed it. I don't know if we can call him a whistleblower. I guess he kind of is, but
yeah. I'm wondering why people are getting a lot of people are getting their memories back now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm wondering why now? Like, like what, I'm trying to figure that out. It's like, a lot of people are starting to get memories back, and it's like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was meant to be or something like that, or,
Maybe because they haven't talked about it and they haven't thought about it. Sometimes maybe these entities are just allowing us to remember part of the disclosure already happened. You can't. It's okay to say that disclosure. We look forward to disclosure. That we will get disclosure, but it's already happened. It seems several times.
Yeah. It's like, for those of us that know, we already have disclosure, right? We don't need validation from the government, right? That's a really good point. So tell us about the S.T.A.R. Support group, like a little bit more about it. Like, what kind of reports have you been getting in lately from people, or is it more just like a group that chats about their experiences, and so you get kind of random stuff, or how? Yeah.
It's kind of random, some of this stuff. I think some people are a little bit shy still and scared to participate. Some people, they believe that they're looking for these experiencers for whatever purposes, so I don't blame them for being quiet. But there's a lot of people talking about reptilians. They're being seen, anywhere from Arizona to Texas. There's people telling me they found entrances to reptilian bases in Texas. It's being reported every day, hundreds of pictures and videos across all these groups, between my group, your group, other groups we see that have 20, 30,000 people in them. I can't believe that more people aren't believing in this. It's so hard for them to believe. And it's going to be hard with AI now. It's going to make it harder for us.
Yeah. We have a question from the audience. This is from my moderator, Jason. He says, why do you feel, let me see if I can put it up. He says, why does eco reports of abduction have faded from the news?
Why do you think they've been faded? They don't really make it the news, the abduction, does it? In the cases that really it might have made it was Travis Walton was probably the last one that maybe was actual news for abduction.
Yeah. That's a really good point. They don't, and it seems like I feel like the government might be trying to sweep them. I've been talking about this lately too. I feel like they might be trying to sweep it under the rug, like make it look like something that would, like like for me, I don't think. I have this idea that I don't think the government's ever going to come out without disclosure. I mean, it would be nice if we ever do get it, but like, it seems like they're regressing in that sense. It's like, it seems like they don't want the people to know that about the alien contact stories and the abductions and stuff like that. I was thinking maybe that's why we don't hear about it, or maybe it's because maybe some people aren't being as abducted as much anymore. But it seems like from your support group, it seems like a lot of people still are being taken, right? Would you say?
Yeah, some people report they're being taken frequently, from every day to a few times a week to at least monthly. Yeah.
Wow.
Some of them they're scared. They feel like it's negative, possibly. But I tell them you're coming back. If it was all that negative, you'd be like hurting in pain or dead.
Yeah. And then do you guys like to investigate the missing 411 as well, like all the people that go missing, and do you feel like that ties into the UFO phenomena?
Oh, it definitely feels like it. All the national parks, with what David Paulides has put out there, and his latest one is the UFO connection. They know what's in these national parks, and they don't let us in these certain areas, probably because they had some kind of agreement. Now, is this got to do with what was possibly put in place with the Eisenhower administration? So does that mean we got to work along with these things because we don't know how to beat them yet? But when we say aliens, it's kind of a broad word, Rob, because it's possible of many species, really. And they're not all bad, but again, there's bad in everything, even in human species. So they say there's good mantis beings, there's good reptilians. There's a little bit of good in all these races. But if there was anything too nefarious, you'd think between the experiences, we'd have a bigger message besides, world peace, trying to save the planet and stuff like that. It seems like these experiencers are the new hippies.
Yeah. What I was going to say was, have you ever had a face-to-face alien encounter that you can remember? Like something that just like blew you away?
During meditation one time, there was something strange happened. Yes, I came home from a friend's house and I decided, to throw on the app I used to spend my time on, Podbean. There was somebody over there that was hosting ambient music with frequency tests. So like, all right, this might be good for meditation. So I'm doing some meditation and I'm sitting there, and for me, when the meditation happens, it's like there's a glowing light. It comes in, and when the glowing light comes in, if I get distracted, it goes away. But when I get focused, it's there. Is when I made contact. Now I've only had this happen a few times. It is kind of scary because you don't expect these things. You think meditation, you're just going to go into somewhere that's peaceful. I wasn't planning on any contact, but three beings while I was in this meditation came to me right in my living room. And it was strange. There wasn't much speaking, anything going on. All I knew is that they told me they could heal me. Like, I was in an accident in 2010 that keeps me from work now. I fractured 2 vertebrae in my, 3 vertebrae total, 1 in my neck, 2 in my back.
What happened, Rodney?
It was a motorcycle, an enduro bike. I was a little 125. I was riding, never rode one before. It was my sister's, riding it for fun, and I was, wiped out really good. And I spent like 3 weeks in an intensive care unit with blood clots in my lungs and in my leg.
Oh my God.
It wasn't a good time. I forgot where we were going before that.
Hard. I mean, but bikes can be dangerous though, right? I know a lot of people that have gotten in motorcycle accidents. They really seem to be like they can be dangerous, like.
Oh yeah. 2 wheels bad. You got to respect them. 4 wheels good. But that was the injury in my neck. I would get like fluid I'd be able to hear going from the base of my skull and my spine back and forth. It would happen frequently. I used to hear a lot of crunching when I'd turn my head back and forth like this. All that's gone. They healed me and they said, you make more sacrifices and you change the way you live and we can heal you. But if you don't make these sacrifices, it's worthless to heal you. I've been making changes in my life, changes in my diet. I've been slipping a little bit, going back in my old ways of eating and stuff like that. Smoke a little bit more cigarettes than I should, but I believe they can heal us. And if you get in contact with these right entities, and I started making a connection. I'm gonna start using words, and I hope it doesn't make taboo for anybody. But another phenomenon that I've recorded throughout these years is these orbs people see.
Yeah.
What made me fascinated about these orbs is one night I had one of these things is 50 feet from me, and it was enormous. It was enormous. It was the size of a 2-story house. It came from the east, real slow, quiet, and it stopped in front of me. It feels like there could have been some missing time and stuff in that because it felt like I was engulfed with that light, and then it just slowly went to the north. Now, keep in mind, there's the Griffiths Air Force Base was to the right, out to the east of me, and then Fort Drum is to the north. And in that same home, the wife had an orb contact there, but it was different. Hers was the size of a beach ball, and it was amber, like a reddish orangish color. And it came from a distance around the house or something, and it came up to her on the side of the house, and she felt like it scanned her, like she couldn't move, and then it left. It left right inside itself. Is how she described it, like sucked itself right inside itself and was gone. I was like, "Are you sure it just didn't move away from you so fast that it looked like it disappeared within itself?" I mean, that's possible, but
can I tell you what happened? I got to tell you this because I know you run your support group, and I think you'll find this interesting. So, do you remember last year when all the when the drone and orb sightings were going on? I don't know if you listen to my show all the time, so you might not have heard me tell this story. So I'll tell you. So what happened was the one night I went out to smoke a cigarette after a podcast, and I looked up at the sky. And I got a drone on film, or what I think is a drone. It's highly like I put it on Instagram, and I put, "Is this a drone or plane?" So it's like I wasn't claiming it was a drone. I'm just telling people it looks weird to me. Let me know what you think, and it's weird because the light of it is on the front. You know what I mean? And again, this was around the time when the whole drone and orb craze was happening last year. Remember, people were showing videos of orbs taking out drones, and everybody was trying to question what the drones were and stuff. Well, yeah. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is right by New York and Jersey, where a lot of these orbs and drones were being seen. So then what happened 2 days later, Rodney, I swear to God on my dad's grave, this happened. Like, I'll tell you the best of my knowledge what happened. So I was walking to the dollar store by my apartment, and I was, I don't know if you guys have BP gas stations there, but we have like these gas stations here called BP, mm-hmm. And I was walking past the BP, and I just happened to look up, and 300 feet above the BP was this like plasmoid shape-shifting orb, but mine was like purple and green, and it was like morphing, you know what I mean? It wasn't like one solid shape or color, and it reminded me a lot of, like, I used to watch like those Jaime Maussan videos. I've been into UFOs for a while, about like a lot of those weird things you would see in Mexico, like Jaime Maussan, like the UFOs over Mexico, and you would always see like weird like shape-shifting orbs or something, it reminded me of something like that. And I and this is the part where people aren't going to believe me, but this is to the best of my knowledge. I actually took out my phone, and I was trying to put my camera up to it, and it was actually knocking out my camera. Like, where I didn't have that problem with the drone. With the drone, I was able to film it, and, I got it. But with this, it was like literally like making my camera like the line squiggling, and it was freezing up my phone. Only until like I got away from the object was I able to get like, control over my phone again. And I was like, nobody's going to believe me. You know what I mean? But I mean, this is what happened 100%. I got a lot of people see stuff like that and they don't get the idea to film it, but I was like, I'm going to film this, but it wouldn't let me. It was like, does this sound like familiar to you? Or does this sound like something like, not familiar, but like, have you heard stuff like this before? And what do you gauge from it?
Well, we did see the drones get knocked out of the sky when these things come up next to them, weren't they? There's several videos floating around about that. There's always been reports of them interfering with electronics, with cars and in houses. That's normal.
Yeah. Because I've heard of people's electronics going out when they've been abducted. Like, I've heard about people being abducted, and like there'll be a craft hovering over their car, and like their electronics will go out, or the car will stall or something like that. So it seems like it can have some kind of effect over electronics, Yeah,
it does.
But so I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but you were going to tell the story. You were saying you were meditating and you saw a being one time.
There was three of them. They were standing in front of me, and my eyes were closed, and I'm sitting there in meditation. We're going through that, and then I was compelled, for some reason, to put my arms out, and they wanted me to open my mouth. I don't know. I was just compelled to do that, is what it felt like. And that scared me. I was like, I don't know what's going on there, what they're trying to put something in me, so I just opened my eyes and it all stopped. So I took a break. I had to go outside and take a breather. I come back inside and we did it. I did it again. And it was after that, when I was afraid, is when the healing happened, is when I was healed. And it's like, as fast as it all started, I broke contact and it was over.
Did you ask for that healing leading up to it, or was it like something that like happened out of nowhere?
Through like prayer and meditation, I have asked for healing, you know what I mean? And that's between that orb sighting I had before and then being healed, I started making a connection that possibly these things could be angelic that we encounter. People like to call them demons. So if some of them are demons and some of them are angelic, it can go both ways.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Let me see here. One thing I wanted to ask you about was the cattle the cattle mutilations. I know you study that as well. Do you have a theory on what's going on with that?
Well, it's maybe to see because these animals are grazing off the nature and everything around them, to see how their health is. We're being tracked and they're doing tests on us, is what the everybody keeps coming back talking about. So their project is Earth and us and all the beings on it. You know what I mean? They're watchers. You can look at them as watchers. Again, not trying to get all taboo and religious on you. But if you look at these books, all religious books, from the point of view as an abductee, a contactee, an experiencer, some of these stories start making a heck of a lot more sense and more readable.
Yeah, yeah. Do you buy that the people that say that the some of the cattle mutilations could be government, or do you think they're all alien or UFO or something otherworldly?
It's hard to say, honestly. I stumbled across the cattle mutilation in the late 80s when I worked on a beef farm. The beef cows, you only bring them in once a week just to grain them and check them and see how they are. And like dairy cows, they're not handled every day. So they're little feral animals. We went to bring these cows in, and one of them didn't come in one time. So we went back out looking for it. And just like the typical stories of the cattle mutilations, it had cut marks all across it, and it was just mutilated in ways that even this old man farmer never seen anything like it. No, nothing was eaten on it. Nothing wanted nothing to do with it. The other cows weren't anywhere near it. It was strange. We just buried it, and I never thought twice about it. So I didn't learn about cattle mutilations until later on in life.
Yeah, I agree. And I was going to say, do you agree with like some of the stuff that Linda Moulton Howe puts out about the cattle mutilation? Seems like she's done a lot of investigating on it and stuff. You know?
Yeah, she's done a lot of investigating on it. She's like the leading person. I think that's where her research started and got her name out there. And we coming to find out that it's not just cows, but horses, elk, other animals, even dogs and cats. People have spoken of. You know, I feel like one time maybe my dog was abducted. I got woke up when I was sleeping on the couch, and my 100-pound pit bull was on top of me, and he was scared and barking, looking at the ceiling.
Wow!
Didn't make any sense to me.
Holy heck! That's crazy. I mean, you know, I've heard about animals getting scared and animals reacting weird to UFOs. So that is strange. Like, you know, I've even heard of, you know, I remember a show that Art Bell did back in 2010 with Butch Witkowski. Rest in peace, Butch. He was a great researcher. I don't know if you remember him, but he did a show with Art Bell in 2010 about human mutilations, which that gets swept under the rug a lot. Like, there have actually been a few cases of actual human mutilations. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, there's cases of human mutilations. There's even in some, if you dig deep enough, you'll come across cases where they say that in crash UFOs, they found human body parts.
Wow. I didn't hear that.
So there is a dark side of disclosure. Yeah, we got to be careful throwing people down rabbit holes they're not ready for, though, Rob.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're right. That's a good point. You know, but okay. So let's talk about patterns and experience or testimony. And by the way, guys, if you have a question for Rodney, you know, something that you would think would be interesting, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll ask the question. And yeah, go if you guys have something. And what about patterns and experience or testimony? Do you see any patterns in the testimony you're getting from people?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between them, but it's not just that there's similarities. When there's those differences is what we want to try to pay attention to. It gives us a more broad look on what actually is the agenda and what's going on. I mean, you talk about anywhere from just being visited and having like a doctor's visit to women talking about being on the ships and being part of the hybridization program. You know, there's a lot of things going on in there.
Yeah. What about have you ever heard of anybody going into underwater bases at all?
Well, when I spoke to Travis Walton, I got one chance to meet him. He did say that when he was abducted, the pressure when he was in the craft, he wasn't sure if he was underwater in outer space or underground. He knew it felt different. And the beings that were around him, that were ushering him after he got off the first craft and realized he was either inside a larger craft or underwater or something, that they were that one of them was wearing a helmet, so one of them couldn't breathe the same atmosphere as him and these other beings. Some people might be taken to these places. We don't know if we're being taken to a mothership upstairs in the sky. You know, it's a 24-hour, 7-day a week, 365 program going on in darkness, because darkness is always there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. What do you believe the larger alien agenda is? Do you feel like it's what you said, it's that we're a project Earth here? Do you think we're some kind of like we're in some petri dish, or we're an experiment for aliens in some way?
In a sense, I guess you could say it's like that. I mean, if you do relate it to religious texts and that we are their creation, that they are the missing link, that yeah, that's exactly what's going on.
So you believe like the story of the Anunnaki, where they say they came and they genetically modified humans, and like that we could have been a experiment of of the gods, so to say.
It definitely seems that way, doesn't it? You know, they try to tell us there's a missing link. How can there be a missing link when they can figure out everything else, make an atomic bomb practically overnight, put people on the moon, and everything else we can do, but there's still a missing link? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah. This question is from Polly Roderman. I'll put it up on the screen. She says, "Hey Rodney," she says, "What is disclosure for you, and how is it going to happen? Do you feel?"
Well, it's happening the way it should happen, nice and slow, but it's because we're getting the government and politics and world religious leaders are involved. They're the ones that are hindering it, but it's slowly going to happen. Hopefully, and they'll incorporate themselves into our society because many of them look just like me and you. A lot of them look similar enough to me and you that they could walk among us maybe at night. They've already been walking among us. I had another experience, Rob, that was really strange. My wife was working at a Walmart, and there's a gentleman I got to get close to. He was from Ghana, and I was talking to him inside the store one night, and his eyes glowed really white. It made no sense to me. I thought, okay, maybe it was just the light reflection inside the building, so I just blew it off. A year later, I was talking to this guy in the parking lot, the same guy. But the sun was to his back, and his eyes glowed again like Teal'c from Stargate. Is all I could compare it. It was. I didn't ask him about it. I didn't really know how to react to it, knowing that it happened twice. But the guy got a job. He left that job 2 days later. He was gone, and I haven't seen him.
That's strange. I wonder what he was like. If he was like a hybrid or something, or.
Yeah, if he was, I don't know. I don't hear much about people talking about this glowing eye phenomena. People that walk among us, people try to say that was it contacts that could have made his eyes glow. So I Googled and looked into contacts, and it couldn't be possible because I can't remember what kind of contacts they were, but not the way his eyes were glowing. No, it was strange.
Yeah, I'm looking for Phil's question. Phil had a question here, and I think he wants me to read this comment. He says, let me see here. He says, many get bloody noses a lot in life, but if they are getting abducted, I was abducted a lot and always had blood noses, but waking up in my pajamas inside out and missing socks. Yeah, you hear that a lot. That's pretty common. It's like the aliens don't know how to put their people's clothes back on correctly or something.
Yeah, sometimes they put the clothes on inside out backwards, or maybe they don't even put them on you. They put somebody else's clothes on you, even, I've heard.
And isn't it funny? You hear stories of people saying that, yeah, they put someone else's clothes on. And it's so funny. Like, you'll hear people saying that they don't know the people from down here on Earth, but they know them up on craft, and they know what they look like naked because they see each other naked because they're being abducted. And they're, it's crazy, right? I don't know. I was always a big fan of Daryl Sims, and I got to interview him, and he talks about this big abduction that happened in 92. It's called the mass abduction of 92, where he said the aliens were, asking where the soul was. They were asking where the soul was and where the spirit was, and the abductees didn't know how to answer them. And I thought that was really strange that they would ask those questions, Yeah,
Daryl Sims, he's the alien hunter. That's cool. You got a chance to talk with him, Rob.
Oh yeah, like 3 times. He's one of my favorite people to. Yeah, he has some pretty. He's a cool dude. Yeah, for real. He has some pretty fixed beliefs on what he thinks the phenomena is. Like, he thinks they're all fallen angels, or he thinks that the beings in charge are fallen angels, and then he thinks that it's like a more spiritual thing, which it could be. I try to have a neutral approach to everything. I don't know, but do you think it could be something like that? Like, it could be like a spiritual battle or something like that?
100%. That's how I feel with it too. I gotta agree with him.
Yeah, that's yeah. What leads you to that? Do you think that's just like the beings are more evil that are abducting people?
Well, they're always there. They're watching, and like I said, the stories that they talk about in the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran, the Hindus, the Muslims, all of them. The stories they talk about are very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another great question from Polly Rodderman. Thank you, Polly, for submitting this question.
Polly.
And she says, do you have any psychic abilities left by your experiences?
It does feel that way. It feels like my whole life is like deja vu. I can like hear everything you're gonna say, like before you're gonna say it. It's like I feel like I'm a truth lie detector, a human lie detector. And if I don't get that feeling while I'm around people, then there's something up. Like maybe they're trying to hide something from me.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. What do you have you been able to do some pretty pretty cool stuff with like your like as far as like manifesting or any psychokinesis, telekinesis, or any kind of interesting like stuff that you can remember?
Well, because I watched the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, I had to try to walk through a wall. That didn't work, so I moved. So I had to move on to cloud bursting. You know, so it's cloud bursting is very interesting, and a lot of people won't believe it. You know, they're typical skeptics, Rob, and I feel that yeah, I've made clouds burst, bring them together, and put holes right in the middle of them before. I recorded it one time, and that phone. Maybe I should do it again and try it again to record it and show you, but who's gonna believe it, anyways?
I believe you. I believe you. No, I believe you. I mean, see, my show name's Typical Skeptic, but people say I'm not very skeptical on the show. It's okay. It's okay to say that. I don't care. Like, I'm more open-minded because I feel like when someone's skeptical, I feel like someone that's skeptical should be open-minded, but ask questions about things, you know, not just believe everything, but like ask good questions. And we should try to find evidence when we can. I think skeptics get a bad name because there's a lot of people that are cynical, that are just straight up deniers and haters. And they just like, they want to like put down everything, you know what I mean? And I feel like it's those people that give skeptics a bad name. Whereas there's people like me, I'm just skeptical where I just like to question things, you know what I mean? But I'm more of a believer and I'm more like open-minded to everything. And I try to stay neutral, you know? I don't know if that makes any sense.
I think it's great when we get people that enter the field as skeptics and then they turn out to be believers and then they become advocates, you know, like Dr. Johnny Mack. How about that? I'm sure you know that name.
I feel like he was murdered. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, like, I know people say that, you know, he was, because what I say is like, who doesn't look across, you know, crossing the street when they're I mean, you know, I guess he supposedly got hit by a car, you know, and he was in another country, but I'm sure if I was in another country, the first thing I would do is like look to cross the street, you know, and I don't know. And I feel like he was putting a lot of pressure on Harvard because at the time it was so taboo to believe in abductions or anything about alien phenomena that like, you know, and he was such a esteemed professor that had to not look good for Harvard or in their eyes, you know. But I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's because Harvard was part of the cover-up, probably. If that was the case, you know, they want to keep us shut up. They got to keep us quiet. They got to get us on medications. You know, they're going to tell you you're bipolar and you must have anxiety and you're depressed. So we're going to give you all these medications and it's going to, you know, suppress your emotions. So you don't want to think about this stuff, maybe. And you're not going to be you. You know, I'm not advocating that people should just come off their pills. But I'll tell you what, since 2020 and I came off all these meds, I haven't been in a better state of mind mentally in my life. I'm happier without these doctors and the support group and people like you and Coley and other people, Polly, all you guys, Scott Rosen. I can't name enough people. All you guys together, we're all helping each other. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah, this is a good one. This is from Joyful Jennifer. She says, Rodney, she says, I have a ring, constantly, I guess she has a ringing in her left ear nonstop. She says, do you experience that ever? Or is that a sign of anything?
Well, nonstop, no. You know, I'm not going to come out and say that's tinnitus because it's nonstop. But occasionally, yes, I do get here ringing, and the wife she'll tell you all the time that I bring it up. Do you hear frequency right now? Do you hear that? And it'll be in one ear or the other. And sometimes it'll stay a little longer than others, and it's usually about the same frequency. And I'm not sure, sometimes I'll go outside because they say that's because there's maybe a UFO and they're trying to get you to go outside. So I'll go outside. But then, today we got all these Wi-Fi routers around us, Xboxes, all these things are giving off frequencies. And then we know about voice-to-skull communication, which is scary stuff. There's a patent for it. Who was it that gave us that patent number? One of our previous guests. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it's scary. I'm not sure what the frequencies are that I'm hearing myself. Is it because there's a being near me, maybe? I don't know.
Or maybe, that's a good point. Coley said she's done the cloud busting like 50 times. I put her comment up. I was going to say, I believe it. That girl is so psychic. Like, I remember I was talking to her on the phone one time, and she was able to project herself in my studio here, and she was able to like make things happen. Like, I was seeing flashes and stuff, and like Coley is. I think I'm sure you know this. It seems like she's like super psychic. She might be one of the most psychic people I've. She's pretty.
You never know. Yeah, you never know. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're right.
Oh, I was going to ask you about how music connects with the UFO phenomenon. I thought that would be interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists that make songs about this, and it's gotten swept through the carpet through all the years. The oldest song that I found was from Ella Fitzgerald, 1952, Two Little Men in a Flying Saucer.
That's cool.
Yeah, the Byrds made one, I think called something like Spaceman. I can't remember. I got a collection of 950 songs. And it really makes you wonder when you think about it, because Jimi Hendrix had an experience. And right here in New York where I live, and it makes you think about the album, Jimi Hendrix Experience,
Wow. Yeah. Maybe his experience was a real experience, like a UFO experience,
Yeah, it was. He told his story. Him and I think it was his guitarist right here in New York. It was in the winter. They were going to freeze to death, and this UFO came over them, and it kept them warm and to survive through the night, is how the story goes. John Lennon seen a UFO in New York. You got Kesha. She did a song called Spaceship. Ozzy Osbourne, Two Little Men in a Flying Saucer. Ozzy Osbourne, Scary Little Green Men. A lot of good songs out there.
What about Jim Morrison? Do you think he saw anything?
Who?
Jim Morrison.
Oh, I bet he's seen lots of things. I mean, come on, he was making music in the 60s when LSD was real popular. I bet he did. I haven't found any information that he has publicly, but
one thing I found out about him and Elvis is like two guys from this publishing company that sends me interviews. Two people came out with books. One's called Occult Elvis, and one's called The Occult Jim Morrison. And it turns out that like Elvis and Jim Morrison were like really into the occult, like they would take like books with them, because I guess, there was no internet then, but I mean, like they would take like books with them while they traveled, and like, there's some really interesting stuff about both Elvis and Jim Morrison and their studies of the occult,
Yeah, no, I never heard that before.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting for sure. Do you feel like music and the UFO phenomenon connects in any other way or anything like that, like through experiences or anything like that?
Oh, I'm not sure what you're asking, but I'm sure it's influenced a lot of people's music, and they haven't just put it into the music to like so forwardly, in a sense.
What I was referring to is like, like if somebody has a CE5 and they can like sync up their music to the way the like UFOs are moving in formation. Did you ever see that?
No. Howard Menger, he was in the High Bridge incident in New Jersey. I can't remember what it was, in the 50s, but he came back and he gained the ability to play a piano, and he's got you can find it out there somewhere. I can't remember the title of it. I got a lot of information in my head. I don't just focus on one area of this phenomenon. I'm looking at it in quite a broad state, because there isn't just one experience that can really explain the whole phenomena.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you about. We talked a little bit about Bigfoot, but what's your perspective on cryptids and all other high strangeness?
That these things overlap, if the cryptids, the paranormal, ghosts, and UFOs, sometimes it can be hard to distinguish what we're dealing with or other people when they're explaining it to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They cross over sometimes.
There's a place here in Pittsburgh. It's called the Chestnut Ridge. It's a pretty big paranormal place. Like it's known for like it's like it stretches from Pennsylvania the way up to West Virginia. Like Stan Gordon's wrote about it and stuff. If you've ever heard of his work, and and then there was a documentary made about it too. But I live right near the ridge, literally. Like I live, I'm not on the ridge, but I live near it, and I still haven't went there. But like supposedly they see like, Dogman, Bigfoot, UFO sightings, other cryptids like Thunderbirds, Black Panthers, which, we would never get a Black Panther in Pennsylvania, all kinds of weird stuff, people have time anomalies there, missing time.
It's one thing, Rob, that somebody came to me on Podbean. I really like Podbean. It's audio only, and I'll sit there. It's just where I just spend my time, and I'll get random calls in the night. I had a gentleman call me up here 6 months ago, and about a Mothman experience. And so the Mothman is even still being reported out there.
Wow, that's amazing. How do you get calls on Podbean? Like, what happens? Like, do you take calls? Like, or can you take calls on Podbean?
Oh, it's an app just like any other app, and when you download it, and when you go into a room with all the lives, there's a panel of I think 8 people you can have with the host, and a total of 8 people, and they can just touch the like TikTok. They can touch the little cube, and it's like calling in.
Oh, that's so cool. Like I maybe get that because I do pretty well with my audio podcast, but I'm on Spreaker and it doesn't have anything like that. I wonder, can I be on Spreaker and be on Podbean at the same time? Like,
I'm not sure. I only used Podbean where I originally started in 2020. And like I said, it's only audio only. And I don't think it's compatible with StreamYard. It's a few apps. It streams itself out to a bunch of apps, different places. I was never worried about followers or where it was going. I was all about the experiences and just was waiting for that random call at 2, 3 in the morning. I just sit there and do live research, listen to my songs about aliens and UFOs, and just waiting for experiences to have conversation.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Like, and what's your show on there so like people can follow you?
Well, I just named it after the support group to make it easy to find. STAR. It's the acronym. It's got the periods in between it. It makes it easier to find because there's a lot of things that are called STAR. There's the STAR investigation group. I think that's MUFON and different STAR things. So yeah, that's the acronym STAR. Yep, support for those abducted in return.
Yeah, I love that. If you guys have any more questions for Rodney before we finish, put them in the chat and we'll get to it. And we talked about disclosure. Do you think we have a timeline for disclosure? I mean, do you ever think there'll be a time where, I know this is so cliche and a lot of people probably ask you this, but do you ever think there'll be a time where the aliens like land on the White House lawn that we'll ever have like full blown contact with them?
Oh, well, they tried that once, didn't they? They flew over the White House for a weekend, a few times over a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's how disclosure is going to happen. We've seen all this orb stuff going on. There's a few phenomenons going on with this UAP and drone stuff going on, and it's still going on. Now, those things they're recording, them orbs, I've even recorded them up here for years. I got them reflecting off the water. So if they're reflecting off the water, they're definitely low in the atmosphere.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, September 16th was a strange one. I heard something. I didn't go outside. Normally I would. I was like, it's just an airplane. Well, my kids come inside and he's like, Dad, did you see that? It was a big Dorito-shaped craft in the sky. It had 3 white lights on it and a red one in the bottom in the middle. That's typically people are going to go to what? A TR-3B?
Yeah.
That's what I think it could have possibly been. Maybe it was just one of their other bombers. I don't know if they have that red light on the bottom and the 3 white ones that stay lit like that.
They also say the reptilians have a triangle craft too. I don't know if you've heard that,
Yeah. We've reverse engineered these crafts from somewhere. The Tic Tac shaped one that Lockheed Martin's using, Skunkworks, whatever. That's supposedly the Tranaloids craft. The Tranaloids that Reagan was briefed about.
That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard much about that. That's interesting. Who are the Tranaloids? What do we know about them?
We don't. Well, Linda Moulton Howe knows more about them. I can't say I know a lot about them, but it seems like they're like kind of like insectoids. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
they're the bad guys. I'm getting that out of them, but that's about all I know.
Linda Moulton Howe gets some of the best experiencers. I love watching her when she interviews an experiencer. I've been listening to Linda since. People give Linda a hard time, and I don't think she deserves it because, like, I know. I mean, not everybody can be 100% right. I know. I just want to say, like, I've been listening to Linda since, like, I grew up listening to Art Bell. I'm 45. And I listened to Art Bell in like 99, 2000, 2001, when I had no clue about any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Before, podcasts were even existed, and I was just like always into UFOs and the paranormal. It always just interested me. And then I just kind of got away from it, but I kind of always followed like UFO radio. I would follow like Alejandro Rojas and stuff like that. And then in 2015, I would say I had like a reawakening when I found out about the Anunnaki. And then like, that kind of made me go back to the Art Bell days and like revisit some of that stuff. And then it was interesting to see that Linda Moulton Howe is still going because she got her start with Art Bell. She used to report with Art Bell back in Dreamland in like 1994. You know what I mean? Where she was talking about cattle mutilations and stuff. So like, it's amazing to see that she's still doing it like 30 years later,
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's in her 80s herself now. It's great seeing her keep going. It is.
Yeah. We have a good question here from Scott Rosen. Good to see you, Scott. And he says, Rodney, what are some common themes you keep coming across in the community?
Common themes? Just that these experiences do scare people and that it feels negative. And like I keep saying, we come back. Maybe we are being tagged, chipped. They're doing whatever. That's part of the hybridization program. These beings more advanced than us, and they're running the show, and it doesn't seem like a bad thing, honestly. Some people do have bad experiences, but it's not the word, it's the word alien we got to get rid of. We got to figure out what these things exactly are, what races they are, because more of these experiences are positive, I'm seeing, than negative. There are negative cases out there. Don't get me wrong. There are some negative ones. Who is it? Jonathan Reed. He stumbled upon his dog in Washington, and it was engaged with an alien. He seen the alien rip its dog's head in half, kind of like, King Kong when he's fighting something, and it vaporizes his dog. That's a traumatic experience. It sounds negative, but maybe the alien was just defending himself. I don't blame him for being mad. It killed his dog. But maybe its intentions weren't negative in the beginning,
Yeah, I agree. And if you follow that story, it seems like he made a friendship with that alien after he put the alien in the freezer, and then the alien comes back alive. And I remember that story being on Art Bell like back in the day too. And I was always so fascinated by it. Like that was a great, and he's still doing podcasts to this day. I think Jonathan Reed, right?
Yeah, he just did a live with somebody recently. I just noticed. Yeah, he's still talking about it.
That's fascinating. And this is one from Polly Rotterman. And she says, do you usually find mantids in hybridization programs, experiencer stories?
Yeah, I've heard of it before. It's not unknown. It's just because people think about a hybridization program, it could be like some kind of mantis. It could, you never know. Yeah.
And then this is Whispering Portals. Thank you for watching Whispering Portals. And Whispering Portals says, Rodney, have you heard anything about July? Because I keep hearing that.
No, I haven't heard anything about July, but there was like a date in August, like 2027, that people were talking about.
And what do they think is going to happen? Is it like a disclosure, like a full-blown disclosure or something like that?
I'm not sure. I usually don't pay attention to dates because then when nothing happens, then they got to come up with an excuse and then they string people along. You got a bunch of groups out there like the Galactic Federation of Light, Ashtar Command, and all these different things that they can feed on the weak people, people that don't really understand their experiences, and they just they're sometimes the first groups they reach out to. They're strange. I don't hold any dates like that. No.
Yeah, I agree. One thing this was from Kitsalio, and good to see you, Kits. He says, what does Rodney think the purpose of forced breeding program is? I think he means the hybridization.
Well, I think it's a betterment for us and them, like if there are creators and it's just part of the program and they don't want us to destroy this earth, and they're obviously willing to destroy all the humans to save the earth. They've done it before.
Yeah. Do you think that the Greys are just like do you think the Greys are just a robot version for the reptilians or the do you think the Greys are just like androids or some like higher version of AI for like the Anunnaki or the reptilians?
They very well could be like some kind of androids with biomechanical, like a flesh over them. That's something else Linda just touched on. She was talking about the archoloids, and they, archoloids, archons. They can be also called archons, I think. And she said that they might even been the Anunnaki, and that they were androids. Now that would be. This is just a strange thing for me to grasp that androids and AI that's so advanced it could be responsible for our creation. And that's why they're looking for souls. That's why they're so curious about the souls.
Yeah. Someone in the chat mentioned there have been many races of Greys. I've heard that. I've heard there's like 80 different races of Greys. Like some people write about it in books. Like there's like the KGB Alien Races book, which I'm familiar with, which lists a bunch of different Greys. But the ones I was referring to are the ones that are basically doing all the abductions, because those ones, it seems like people have contact with most, and it seems like those ones seem to be very androidish. The only other ones I hear about people contact with are the tall Greys. And I've heard that when a tall Grey walks in the room, someone's energy can just freeze up. I heard their energy is so strong that it can make a person just like totally, be paralyzed. I don't know if you've ever heard it. Jim Sparks said that when he was on Art Bell back in 2007. He said that, he would be fine around the little Grey androids, but when this tall Grey would walk in the room, it had a presence to where it paralyzed him like energetically or something like that.
I bet it would. Something 6 to 7 feet tall that you're unfamiliar with. I bet you would feel that way. It'd be intimidating. Yeah. And something else I want to touch on real quick. A lot of people these days, they want to look into hallucinogenics and they want to have an experience, and they think they need hallucinogenics to have an experience. I'll tell you what, I don't think I'd want to be in that state of mind and have an experience with one of these beings. You know what I mean? I'd want to be clear-headed when I experience these things.
That's a good point.
Why don't they make contact? If they do communicate through consciousness and telepathy, could you imagine walking through your local mall, Walmart, supermarket, or something, and you can hear everybody's thoughts? They can't even control your thoughts.
That would be insane. That would be insane. Like it would be like you would know nobody could have any secrets.
Yeah. But that would make the world a better place too, because you don't have secrets and you'd be forced to behave.
Yeah, that's a good point. This one's from another one from Scott Rosen, and he says, Rodney, could they be after the Anunnaki DNA and our DNA, say, looking for a key to ascend?
Who would be looking for that? What does he mean?
He means that maybe the Greys, or the Greys looking for that.
Maybe the Greys. I'm not sure. I don't know. I know it seems like our world governments are looking for stuff. There's people coming forward saying that possibly the Iran, Iraq, or the war looking for weapons of mass destruction, that people say, oh no, it's actually for oil, could have possibly been for artifacts. They found the tomb of Gilgamesh, they say, down there recently in the last few years, right?
Yeah.
And other things. We just picked up where Germany left off in World War II. That's what we did.
What do you think about that? Like, so you mentioned the 52 flyover earlier. A lot of people think that 52 flyover could have been Nazis because, you hear the story that maybe the Nazis like kind of regrouped after the war and went down to Antarctica and then started, something there, and then, had like full blown UFOs. Some people say an alternative story of the Admiral Byrd thing, where they say where Admiral Byrd actually went down there and confronted Nazi UFOs and then got turned away by them. But then other people say that, Admiral Byrd went into inner Earth and he encountered, beings. And then, I think I had Brad Olson on my show, and he said that, Byrd experienced both kind of. He went into the inner Earth, but then he also had an encounter with Nazi UFOs. Either way, it's fascinating. But do you have an opinion on that, or like what you think might have happened?
Not really. I don't know. It's the 1952 flyover. It could have been even related to the Valiant Thor case and everything. You know, that visited the Pentagon and lived there for 3 years.
Yeah. And do you think I always ask people this, like, I think he was real, but do you think he was a real being? Like, you think he was like a real, like, Venusian and everything?
I think I don't know where he was from. He could have been really from Venus, a Venusian, but there are 3 or 4 photos that exist of him. And if you do a Google search image on him, it'll say it's Valiant Thor, but they'll say it's a conspiracy. But who is this man? Some people tried to say it was Dr. Frankie Strange before he furthered his career, that he was working with Howard Mencher. But no, I don't believe it, because he came and left at the Pentagon as he wished. He didn't have any fingerprints or a belly button. He spoke over 100 languages, known man.
Wow, that's fascinating.
He might have been off-world. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay. We'll do one more question because I got to get going. But this is a good one from Polly. She says, do you have an opinion on the Colombian spheres, like the Buga sphere and all that stuff that they found?
Yeah, those spheres have been reported all through time, and I really do believe that's real. I mean, they just had one land, last year on a UK airport. It's a little bit different than the Buga sphere. And then we had the Bet sphere in 1972, which is a little bit different also. But going back further than that, it was the Nuremberg incident in 1561, I think it was, where they seen orbs and Tic Tacs fighting in the sky. So
wow.
They might be some kind of a drone, these things. They are, obviously, because what kind of occupant would be in it? It'd be a very small occupant hiding inside that thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Well, this has been amazing, Rodney. Thank you so much for doing this. I really enjoyed this talking to you. It really was cool. And do you want to tell people where they can find you and all that stuff? And I'd be interested I want to follow you on Podbean for sure, because I'd like to join one of your chats one night. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's a real slow app over there, Podbean. It's really not like a lot of these other apps, but yeah, it's a nice place to hang out and meet some people. I'm on a lot of different apps. I'm all over. You can look for me by my name or Space Cowboy. YouTube channel. I got some of my evidence up there of some things I recorded. It's also called STAR, just like the support group and everything. SNX Radio with Coley, of course. That girl, she's the main backbone of that show. I'll tell you what, I've never seen somebody work so hard doing a podcast. She's getting us out to 38 different places now. And it's really great. It's changing my whole life and world, doing all this, meeting all you guys and being part of the community. It's really great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rodney. And and everybody tune in to Rodney and Coley's show, SNX Radio. And I put the links in the description. And it was awesome having you on, man. I'd love to do it again.
What's that, Rob? Yeah, anytime.
All right, thanks, guys. And this is the last podcast for me in studio. I'll see you guys when I'm in Florida. I'm leaving for Florida tomorrow, so I'll see everybody from Florida. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.